We're doing good. Guys, I'm excited. Today is a brand new day. Sorry about starting a little bit later here, guys. I had some other things that I had to take care of. However, I'm back in the game now. Um, Today, I'm really excited. We're going to go into how to create authentic relationships, how to create authentic relationships for ourselves, how to create authentic relationships for people in our life. Hey, good to see you, Nicole. Thanks for joining. Sorry about being a little bit later here. So, guys, relationships are everything, right? Relationships, that's what everything comes down to in life. Without relationship, we're not going to be happy. We're always in relation with everything. Our lungs are in relation with the trees. Our being is in relationship with the community. We're always in relationship. If you notice, your body has a little bit more of a spike of energy in the morning when the sun comes up as opposed to late at night. That's because your body is in relationship with the entire world. The only thing that isn't in relationship with the entire world is our mind. There's a separation between our mind and our body. And if we want to have authentic relationships, then we need to understand what's going on in the body, what's happening more in the body. So in this video, I'm going to get into how to have healthy relationships, and we're going to get into the distinctions and the characteristics of relationships that are healthy and that are productive and that are conducive for growth. And then we're going to get into the relationships and some of the signs that aren't healthy, that hurt us, that keep us from growth, that hold us back. So, and guys, let me know how I'm doing here. Let me know how the video quality is and if you can read the board. Facebook, I know it's still going to be backwards for you. I still haven't had any luck in trying to figure out how to switch this around. We'll see exactly what happens, but yeah, I'm still having a lot of trouble with that. So we're just going to have to deal with it being backwards for now and just listen to me real carefully, okay? Hey, good to see you, Liz. I hope all is nice. All right, so let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to go into, so I'm going to divide this up into two categories, guys, okay? So on the left side, we're going to have authentic relationships, and then on the right side, we're going to have unhealthy relationships. And authentic relationships, that's exactly what we want. And guys, I want to preface here first that when it comes to relationships, that's what everything in life is, okay? So if you master relationships, you will master life. That's all it comes down to. If you master business relationships, if you master romantic relationships, if you master friendships, if you master your relationship to yourself, your life is going to be easy. So I want to preface this. This is like the king all be all of everything, okay, is mastering relationships. If you can know how to be in relationship with someone and relationship within yourself, then life is not going to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. The only times when life is really hard for us is when we're not in proper relationship. And a lot of us don't know how to be in proper relationship. I'm still learning how to be in better relationships and everything. So here we go. Let's get into it. So on the left, we have authentic relationships, right? Authentic relationships. Okay. And then on the right, we're going to have unhealthy. Okay, so unhealthy relationships. And there's a couple key characteristics here when it comes to relationships that we notice in authentic relationships and unhealthy relationships. Guys, if you're having an unhealthy relationship, some of the signs that you're going to see are anger, obviously, resentment, disappointment. Okay, and these characteristics, okay, of an unhealthy relationship, anger, resentment, and disappointment, they're there for a reason. Okay, they're not just coming out of nowhere. A lot of the times we can experience emotions within our body and we have no idea why we're feeling these emotions, and things can get really overwhelming. Hey, Luz, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So these things can get really uneasy. We get confused because we're feeling these feelings within our body that we've never felt before: anger, resentment, and disappointment. But guys, in any unhealthy, hey Diane, thanks for joining. But anything that we feel in the unhealthy category is a reason. It's connected to the external world. Remember, guys, emotions are energy in motion, okay? So emotions, whatever you're feeling in the body is connected to the external world. Okay, we're not trained like this. We're not taught this. We're taught that our emotions are our own and they're individualistic. This is not how it works. All of your emotions are connected to people outside in the world. And so you need to understand why you're feeling the way that if you want to understand why you're feeling the way that you are, then look at your relationships, look at everyone in your life and how you're connected to them and start drawing conclusions. Okay, good. I'm glad I answered it, Diane. Hey, Philip, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So now let's get into some of the authentic, like if you're having authentic relationships, let's get into some of the positive emotions that you'll feel. So you're going to feel fulfilled, right? Fulfilled, joyful, energetic, peaceful. Okay, I think we're getting the idea here. All these nice, pleasant things: fulfilled, joyful, energetic, peaceful. And guys, the reason why you feel these emotions if you're in an authentic relationship is because there's an equal amount of energy going back and forth. A lot of people, if they have relationship issues and they come to me, they say, I feel really, really empty. I'm feeling really angry. I'm feeling really, really resentful. I'm feeling really disappointed in the other person. And so there's a reason why we're feeling these emotions in our relationships. Guys, if you're feeling disappointment, okay, this is a really big one. I come across this with a lot of people who are in marriages. In fact, I was just on a phone call about 20 minutes ago where this was an issue. Disappointment comes from false expectations, okay? From expectations that we have. Hey, Mary, thanks for joining. From expectations that we have of other people that are false, okay? So anytime that you feel disappointment or anytime you feel angry, resentment, or let down, it's because you haven't clearly communicated your needs and what you need from that other person. You haven't formed in an agreement. Guys, remember, when it comes to relationships, okay, there's always an agreement. Then that agreement is either conscious or unconscious. And that's what we need to realize. It's either conscious or unconscious. Oh, good, Mary. I'm glad I can help. Thanks for commenting. So if you're in a relationship, you're in an agreement because you're in relationship, right? But whether if you form a conscious agreement, you have a higher chance or probability of having fulfilled emotions, experiencing joy, experiencing energy and peacefulness, as opposed to experiencing these other things. And the reason why that is when you come to a relationship with the mindset that, okay, I'm going to create this however I want to, then you're coming at that person. You both can make those expectations. Then you're both more likely to fulfill the expectations. A lot of us, we hear it in the words in our language, right? We just fall in love, okay? And I'm just using romantic relationships because I know everyone in the room can relate to romantic relationships. So we fall in love, right? It's just something that happens. But here's the thing, guys. We want to be conscious, even about the things that just seem like are being pulled at us. You know, sometimes we get in these moods or we get in these waves of life where we feel like we're just being pulled along. We want to be really conscious of when we start to feel that way. If you start to feel like you're just falling in love, or you start to feel like life is just pulling you in a direction, then start getting very, very aware and start asking yourself questions. Hey, what's really happening here? What's really going on? And the more you ask yourself those questions, the more conscious you will become of what's happening. And you'll save yourself a lot of anger, resentment, or disappointment. So in marriage, this is the number one thing that I see with marriages or relationships that are ending or romantic encounters or whatever. People experience a lot of anger, resentment, and disappointment. At first, it's amazing, right? At first, there's so much love. They feel fulfilled. They feel joyful. They feel energetic. They feel happy. They feel blown up, okay? But the reason why they feel that way is because they have an image or an expectation of that person which hasn't been proved to be wrong yet, right? So for instance, what do we always hear when it comes to the breakup? They say, you're just not the person that I thought you were. And that's because, and I talk about this in one of my videos, and that's because we a lot of times we form relationships from the bottom up instead of the top down. And guys, if you've seen my Empowering Empaths class, check that out. It's a great class because I talk about that, the 3 centers that we live from, right? There's more than 3, but I only talk about 3 in the class. But we live from the mind, we live from the heart, we live from the gut, and we also live from our reproductive organs, okay? Some of us do that more than others. No blames and no judgments. So what happens is, if you form a connection with a person, a lot of times, and at least in our society, it's at the sexual level first. People form at the sexual level, and then it moves up to the heart. And after there's a sexual bond, they start to feel a heart bond, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I really like this person. I'm falling in love with them. Hey, I think I'm falling in love with you. Okay, so that's usually how we form relationships romantically, from the bottom up. But then what happens is sometimes when it starts going wrong, what happens? We say, you're not the person that I thought you were. And so that's how it works. We form down here, then we bring it up to the heart, and we love that person, and then we get married to them. And what happens? We come to connect at the mind level, and we realize that they're not the person that we thought they were. And that's exactly what we say to them. We say, you're not the person that I thought you were, or you've changed. When in reality, they never changed. It was just that you could never actually see them for who they were at the mental level, because that wasn't where your focuses were. Your focuses were at the reproductive or sexual level and at the heart level, because those feel a lot better, but you ignored the mind, right? And so this is what happens is, when you're in an unhealthy relationship, you're going to start feeling anger. You're going to start feeling resentment. You're going to start feeling disappointment. And the reason why you're going to start feeling all 3 of these is because you've come to the relationship with expectations that you didn't communicate out in front and be forward with. You just assumed, okay, this person's my soulmate. I feel really, really good for them, around them. The sex might be really, really awesome. Whatever reasons that we have, okay? And guys, there's no judgments here. I've totally been in all these traps, and that's why I can talk them about in this way. So please, I'm by no means any expert at this. And guys, if you really like what I'm sharing here, please share it with any family and friends. I want this information to get out in the world. People need to know about it. It's what makes life better, and that's what it's all about. So if you're feeling anger or resentment or disappointment, it's because you had, and I'm going to make another bullet point here, unclarified expectations. Okay? Unclarified expectations, right? And so you expect the person to be a certain way. So let's say in the beginning of the relationship, you feel a lot of love, you feel a lot of joy, you feel a lot of happiness, and you automatically assume that that's how it's going to be for the rest of your life. And that's totally understandable. That's how love just kind of takes you over in that manner. So what happens is you're in this honeymoon phase, and you don't specify the expectations that you have of that other person, right? You just think, okay, I feel great around this person, and I love them, so I'm always going to feel great around this person. And so what happens? We overlook the small, little, minute things. But the small, little, minute things are going to be the things later that drive us absolutely batshit insane when we're out of the honeymoon phase. So we want to look at the expectations that we have of that other person, okay? So let's say, for instance, 2 people are in a relationship, right? A guy and a girl, and the guy expects the girl to, we'll get really, really basic and traditional here. The guy expects the girl to make love at least 3 or 4 times a week, okay? And the girl is expecting for the guy to just sit down and listen to her at the end of every day, at the end of work, whenever she comes home. So she wants to be heard. She wants to be listened to. He wants to have sex with her and do whatever. And so, but this is all unconscious, right? There's no conscious agreements. And so let's say life gets out of control, which it does at times. And all of a sudden, the guy doesn't have time to sit down and talk with his wife every single night at the end of every night, or he's not making the commitment or time to do that. And let's say the girl is really, really busy at work. Work is demanding a lot more from her. So she feels like she can't be, sexually available to him nearly as much because she's already low on energy. Guys, if this is the case, and then what happens is, and that those those communications weren't established in the beginning, and there was no conscious agreement at the start, whenever that framework, that unconscious framework starts failing, people are going to start getting upset, and they're not even going to know why. They're just going to start feeling anger. They're just going to start feeling resentment, and they're going to start being disappointed. They're both going to say, "You're letting me down." And they're going to start blame shifting. That's another big one, guys, here. Blame shifting, okay? This is huge. Blame shifting. Okay, so when we blame shift other individuals, that's because we're expecting them to be a certain way. But here's the thing, guys. We do a disservice to ourselves. We do a disservice to the relationship. And we do a disservice to the other person when we lay unconscious expectations upon them, and they lay unconscious expectations upon us. It's not right. It's not fair to us. We hurt ourselves, and it's not fair to them. So, guys, if you're experiencing any of these emotions within your relationships, business relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, then that's a key indicator that something is wrong and needs to be fixed, okay? And instead of blowing up and getting upset and angry, like I had with one person earlier, I was in the middle of it. I wasn't a part of it. I was just mediating it, okay? But if you start getting pulled in, if that's the case, then you want to come back to this and realize, okay, all these emotions that I'm experiencing, it's energy in motion. And it's nothing more than a sign that something is out of balance between me and that person, right? And that's what we want, guys. We want balance all the time. All of life is balance, right? And sometimes we get into balance and more out of balance than others, but all of it comes down to balance. So if you're feeling and experiencing these so-called negative emotions, they're just signals. They're just signals and symptoms that something is off, something is wrong. And guys, here's the tricky thing about life. We don't always know the expectations that we have of another person. So one way that you can do, one really awesome exercise that you can do with all the relationships that you have that are really, really meaningful, which should be all of them, business relationships, what's the other thing? Romantic relationships. Clarify your expectations, okay? And this is in the authentic category. So when we're living in authenticity with ourselves and with other people, then we're going to clarify. I'm going to write this down. We're going to clarify our expectations, okay? If we don't clarify our expectations, then we're going to have serious issues, right? That's the nature of it, guys. When we're let down and disappointed and upset, it's because we had expectations of how that other person should be or how that relationship should function, and it didn't happen the way that we wanted it to. It went south, or it went downhill, or it went to shreds, it went to hell. So, guys, the more you clarify, okay, and that's a key word here, clarify, the more you clarify all of your expectations of another person, or communicate your expectations or communicate the agreement that you guys are coming to make, the better you're going to feel about that relationship. And then also, guys, the other thing that we want to think of is, okay, what we might not be able to meet all the expectations that we have of another person all the time because life happens. And when that happens, what we want to do instead is come up with contingency plans and say, okay, you know what? Just call me out whenever I don't start doing what I'm doing. And that's one of the things that we do unconsciously, right? We blame shift. We say, you're not doing this. You're not being this way. And then the other person, what happens? They just react and get defensive. They get triggered and they get upset. So they just react to it. Well, what we want to do is create a conscious agreement where everyone comes together and then we say, hey, I'm going to meet these expectations for you. You're going to meet these expectations for me. And any time that we come away from those expectations, we're going to communicate that. We're going to communicate that to each other, and we're going to have a list of reasons as to why things are changing. And it's scary because we don't always know. Hey, Sophia, thanks for joining. And it's scary because we don't always know when things shift within us. So there is some lag time. But the more we can consciously communicate and create those conscious agreements, then the better relationships that we'll have and the easier life will be. Hey, good to see you, Jade. Thanks for joining. Communication really is key. And that's the hard thing. We don't always know how to communicate. That's a learning process as well. Thanks for joining, Mary. So Mary asks, what if the relationship is already over because of unconscious actions that have hurt each other? Now I understand, but feel like it's too late. Should I move on of the other person if the other person isn't conscious? Yeah, that's a great question, Mary. Thanks for asking that. So, guys, here's the thing. We can't make our partners or individuals conscious. We just can't. All we can do is say, this is what I want. This is what I expect. Can you meet this? And they can either meet that and match that, or they can't. And that's really hard because, guys, I've been in the same situation, right? I've left certain relationships that I didn't want to leave, where I truly loved the person, but I realized that there was no way they could be nearly as conscious of things that I was because of age and because of experience. And I knew that in order for me to truly move on and be happy, that I had to let that relationship go, even though I loved that person dearly. Not because of anything on their fault. It's just that they weren't nearly as conscious of an individual as I was, and they weren't nearly as conscious because they didn't have nearly as much life experience. So that's a great question, Mary. So guys, if Mary's asking, should you move on from the relationship, even if you love that person dearly, should you move on from the relationship if they're unconscious? Guys, you can always make your partners more conscious, but it's going to be more painful. And a lot of the times that's what we're actually trying to do when we're fighting. We're trying to make them conscious of our needs and our desires. So when we start getting angry and upset and yelling, it's really just us trying to say, hey, like, I have this going on within me, or I have these needs. Can you please help me out? Like, can you please listen? And that's the hard thing. Some people, and I had my last girlfriend tell me this too. She says, I don't feel like you listen. You don't understand. And I would just sit there. I'm like, what don't I understand? I'm totally here with you, asking questions, and I'm communicating back what I think what I'm hearing. So that's the thing, guys. When a person's more unconscious than you, or you're more conscious than them, it's going to be really hard, and it's going to feel frustrating, and you will feel drained energetically. Because, guys, if you exist at a higher energy level, okay, this is how it works, right? And we'll get steamy and hot here. This is Sex 101, okay? Let's say that this is the energy level, right? And up here you have a lot of energy, and then you have lower energy, and then you have real little energy, okay? So it looks like a tornado. Hopefully you guys can see this. So if you're existing down here at this level, you have a real small amount of energy, okay? So people who exist down here would be people who, might be addicted to drugs, alcohol. They have low energy. They're in a low energy state. Now, as you climb the ladder of energy, the energetic ladder, you come up into states where you have more energy. Now, the higher energetic state that you're in, the more conscious you become. And guys, we can be conscious in different areas, right? We can be conscious more in romantic relationships than we are in business, and vice versa. But anyways, so this is the whole bang right here. So you exist at different energy levels, right? And so let's say that you exist at a higher energy level romantically than another person, and another person doesn't have near awareness as you when it comes to sustaining healthy romantic relationships. You're going to feel drained by them, guys. That's all it comes down to. Like sex, a lot of the times, guys, one night stands or hookups or something like that, a lot of the times it's just one person trying to siphon off energy another person exists at a higher energy state, and then that other person is attracted to them unconsciously, right? And so they get attracted to them sexually, and that's because that other person is existing at a higher energy level. That's why you see famous people who always have all these offers coming at them, right? They exist at a higher energy level. They've taken a lot of cool actions in their life. They've built their energy up. They're with, they have a big fan base, so they have a lot of energy coming into them. So that's like drawing other people in, and other people actually want to plug in to that energy source to feel that lift. And that's why sex feels so good, because you get that bump up. You feel better about it, right? You plug into that other person, and if they're a higher energy, then you feel like you get something from that relationship. Cool. Awesome. So Julia says, right on, I'm actively listening. Okay, good. Thanks, Julia. I'm glad you're listening. So let's see what other questions we got here. Hey, thanks for joining, Shelby. Good to see you. Thanks for joining, Emily. So, guys, I hope you understand this whole thing about relationships. And I'm kind of going off in a lot of different tracks, but I'm just answering questions here. But to bring it back to it, there's only two different types of relationships, and it's simple. It's authentic and healthy relationships, and unhealthy and disauthentic relationships. And in unhealthy relationships, you're going to feel anger, resentment, disappointment. And in healthy, authentic relationships, you're going to feel fulfilled, joyful, energetic, and peaceful. Now, granted, nothing is perfect. So even in authentic, healthy relationships, there's going to be times where it gets bumpy. However, if a relationship is getting bumpy again, or things are getting a little bit weird or unconscious, then we just got to look at this, okay? We just got to, re-clarify our expectations. We're getting away from the expectations that we have for each other. And guys, expectations for another person, as the relationships develop, those will change too, okay? So every relationship, business, romantic, friendship, whatever it is that you have it, there's a set of expectations. And you want to make those expectations as conscious as possible. If you don't make those expectations conscious, then you're going to have issues, you're going to have problems, you're going to be upset, and you're going to be disappointed, right? And so make sure that whatever relationship that you have, that you're constantly revisiting the expectations of that relationship. What are the expectations that I have from you? What are the expectations that you have for me? And guys, it's scary. Sometimes it's scary. For whatever reason, I have no fucking clue. But in the human psyche, people get terrified to ask for what they really want. I still get terrified. Well, I used to. Not really much anymore. I don't really get terrified to ask for what I want. I'm pretty fucking fine with asking what I want. But I used to. I used to be scared all the time. It's like this crazy unconscious pattern that exists within the collective human psyche. We get scared to ask for things that we want. We start stuttering. Usually it's a childhood thing. Okay, so guys, if you have trouble communicating effectively what you actually want, then please come to me and we'll work on that, because it just has to do with a childhood thing, right? Children come into this world, and when they're fully themselves and they're unbridled, they just ask for what they want, right? They just come out and do it. Hey, Ray, thanks for joining. Good to see you. All right, cool. So Shelby says, I'm not sure if the question has been asked yet since I just joined, but how can you rebuild trust with partner once it has been broken? How much time should you allow them to forgive you? So if you guys, that's the thing. If you've broken trust with another person in a relationship, hey, Solange, good to see you. Thanks for joining. If you've broken trust in a relationship, guys, that relationship could go. It's really up to them. You can try to rebuild the relationship. You can try to repair it. And there's nothing wrong with trying to do that if that relationship really means a lot to you and you really want it. But guys, sometimes you can't always repair relationships. Sometimes you just got to let them go and move on to the next thing. Now I'm not, hey, Anna, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Now, I'm not saying that that's something that's always going to, you can repair relationships, but it's going to take time. Once you've damaged that relationship, that person isn't going to trust you again, and it's going to take time to rebuild that trust. And even if you do rebuild that trust, they're still going to be skeptical of whether they should invest in you or not, because you hurt the relationship. Honestly, Shelby, if that's your question, I would try to figure out the deeper reason as to what led you to break the relationship in the first place. That's where I would start. I wouldn't start with trying to rebuild trust with the other person, because that can be really hard, and that's not in your control. What is in your control, however, is whether you find the real reasons as to why you did that in the first place. Because we always do things for a reason, guys. We always do. Very few human beings are actually really, really bad. It's just they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. It's an unconscious process. So I honestly, Shelby, I wouldn't focus nearly on as much as trying. I would focus more on trying to figure out why it is that you took the action that led to the breaking off of the relationship, or to leading the person to distrust you, as opposed to trying to heal the relationship, because that means you're focusing on yourself, and you yourself is going to actually get better. So Solange says, but you don't choose who you fall in love with. You're right. Well, see, that's the thing, Solange. You do. It's a feeling, and that feeling is so overwhelming that it feels like you just fall into it. But essentially, you do have the choice. You can say, okay, all right, I'm falling in love with this person, but let me come back to my senses and my mind here and say, is this relationship really good for me? People fall in love all the time and they say, I can't help it. I'm just falling in love. You can help it, guys. We're not meant to think just with our hearts. There's this bullshit belief in the spiritual community that you're just supposed to follow your heart all the time. It's not true, okay? You follow your heart, yes, but you also listen to your mind and you also listen to your gut. It's about the three centers. You use all the three centers to navigate life. And so there can be times, hey, what's up, Hectus Raven? Thanks for joining. I'm not sure if that's your real name. Please tell me your real name. I'm interested because that's an interesting YouTube name. But like I said, guys, don't just follow your heart. I mean, yes, I understand the pull to want to be with someone and falling in love with them. But at the same time, you got to use your mind as well. They should be in perfect balance, guys. In an ideal world, in an ideal learning situation, you want to keep all three of these in balance. Okay, yes, I do love this person, but maybe they're abusing me. Maybe I should leave the relationship. Right? People do that all the time. They stay in the relationship for years because they love that person, even though that person is abusing them. So their mind might tell them, hey, leave the relationship, but their heart's saying stay in. That's an instance where you don't follow the heart. You follow the mind. Okay? So make sure you're always keeping these two in check. The heart and the mind are in constant communication with each other, right? Neurocardiology, that's what we call it. The brain, the heart has a brain, and it communicates with this brain up here, and you want to keep them in alignment as best as possible. And the way that you do that is you constantly check in to both. Check into your heart. How's my heart feeling? Okay, my heart's really hurting. How's my mind feeling? Okay, my mind's saying that, I should really let this relationship go and move on. So listen to both aspects. Hey, thanks for joining, Audrey. I'm glad you really appreciate this topic. Hey, Roma, good to see you. Yeah, Roma, so Roma says, that's hard. The balance, that is. It is. Guys, balance in life is hard because we're managing so many different connections. We're managing so much relationships. There's times where I get out of balance. There's times where I'm more in balance. But we definitely have to learn. Hey, Sophia, thanks for joining. Good to see you. So, guys, it comes back to just learning balance, learning to keep things on an even keel by communicating our expectations, right? That's what it comes down to essentially, is communicating the expectations that you have for other people and asking other people, what expectations do you have of me? And sharing your true wants and sharing your true intents. When you do that, you're going to increase your chances of having good, healthy relationships and living a much easier life. So Sophia asks, maybe not on this topic, what if you don't fall in love? What if you love others and people and animals and nature, but what if you don't fall in love? What do you feel about that? Well, what do you mean, Sophia, about falling in love? And that's a great question. So I really want to thank you for asking that. What do you mean? It sounds like you're just conscious of the falling in love process. I think that's great. I can see when certain people start, falling in love with me and doing what I'm doing and working with a person, and I have to stay conscious of what's going on within them because I can feel what's going on within them. So, like, if you don't feel like you're falling in love with anybody, chances are, Sophia, that you might just already be incredibly conscious of what's going on within you. So a lot of people, when we fall in love, it's because our heart just feels like we get pulled to this other person. And that's because they have like a higher energy or something within them resonates within us. So we feel like it's this unconscious process. We feel like we just get pulled into it and our heart's just pulling it into it. But guys, like I said, you can gain mastery over the heart. If I want, I can look at a gnat and I can kill the gnat if it's annoying me. But if I want to feel an unbelievable amount of love for that gnat in the next moment, I can. Because I have control over that aspect and that center of my being. So if you feel like you can't fall in love, Sophia, then it might just be that you're actually really, really, really conscious individual. At the same time, it could be something else, and that's a whole nother topic, which I'm not gonna go into too much. If you want to send me a message, we can talk about that a little bit more. All right. So Audrey says, I always feel pulled to higher energy. Yeah, it's completely normal to feel pulled to higher energy. That's a part of life. And guys, if you're really liking what I'm sharing here and it's really helping you out, then please share it with any family or friends. I really enjoy doing this work and I want to get it out into the world more and more. And it's really, really important to get out there. It's going to help and change people's lives. I hope it's changing yours as well. This is all the stuff that I learned, guys, and I'm still always learning, but this is all the stuff that I've learned. So, guys, I'm going to open it up for about 5 more minutes. Guys, do you have any questions for me? Any more questions that I can help you with? What kind of questions do you have for me? And I just want to reiterate here, guys, authentic and unhealthy, right? There's two ways that we can do this. We have authentic relationships and unhealthy relationships. And the key to having healthy relationships and authentic relationships is expectations, clearly communicating expectations. If not, you're going to feel anger, resentment, and disappointment. Anger and resentment and disappointment are all products of you feeling like no one's understanding you or no one's listening to you, or you feeling like your needs aren't being met. So, guys, it's important to know what kind of needs you have. It's important to get in touch with what's really going on within your body and what expectations you have of the world. Become more conscious of your expectations for the world. So Shelby says, what do you advise for safely loving someone who is emotionally broken or damaged? Well, like I said again before, Shelby, why, look into yourself. Why are you really attracted to someone who is emotionally broken and damaged? If they're emotionally broken and damaged, are they going to be able to fulfill you emotionally? Chances are no. And I understand if you feel attracted to them and you want to help them out. But guys, I'm just going to be straightforward with you. Anytime where I felt emotionally attracted to someone who was broken or damaged, it was because I had inner work that I needed to do. And that's all it came down to. I just had work that I needed to do. So Shelby, to answer your question, like I said before, just focus on yourself. Why do you think you're attracted to them? If they're emotionally broken, are you really expecting to be for them to emotionally support you? If they're emotionally broken already, they're not going to be able to support you. You may love the feeling to support them, but eventually you're going to run out of energy, and that's going to create resentment, anger, and disappointment. It's only a matter of time. All right, cool. So, hey, good to see you. Oh, Pie Pinup. Oh my gosh, it's good to see you, Lisa. I know I always say Eliza, but I know it's Lisa. So Lisa says, any advice or practices for someone that puts so much heart and soul into relationship work, everything, and how to emotionally heal the heart after things fall apart or fall away? Yeah, thanks. That's a really great question, Lisa. And really, all it comes down to, yeah, glad I could help you out, Shelby. Guys, all comes down to, if you've gone through a lot of us go through heartbreak, and it's not easy. Okay, the first time I went through true heartbreak, it was absolutely horrible. I hated it. It was really, really incredibly intense. I deeply loved the girl, and I still do wish the best for her and still do care for her in a deep way. But I care for other people just as much now because my heart's been blown open to the world. So, guys, if you feel like you've had a heartbreak situation, from the spiritual level, it's good. When your heart breaks, it breaks open to the world. So the purpose of heartbreak and relationships falling or failing is so your heart can break open into the world and so you can feel more connected. When you have severe heartbreak, it's interesting. There's like two feelings you get. At least this has been my experience. It's like it feels good because I'm breaking my heart open to everything and everyone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this actually feels pretty good. But at the same time, it's hurt and you can feel that loneliness. And it can be hard to deal with that loneliness because under that hurt, there is a lot of loneliness there, And so where we're at as a human species right now is we're very disconnected. And a lot of us are having relationship issues where our hearts are breaking open and it's really hurting us. And so we just have to realize that if you're in this space where you just broke up and your relationship is really hurting and I'm sorry, your heart is really hurting, then you just have to be with your heart. You just have to ask what your heart really wants. Like literally you can do this exercise, like place both hands over your heart. Okay. And then just say, what do you really need right now? What do you really need right now? And this is you're talking to yourself. And sometimes what yourself really needs is just to be alone. Guys, we don't give enough honor. There's not a lot of blockbuster movies that are made off of being alone. Maybe Castaway is like the only one that I can think of, right? So Castaway is literally the only movie that I can think of where like the whole movie is about one person pretty much, and that's it. And so the heart does need to be alone at times. And after we go through a hard breakup, sometimes, guys, the quickest remedy to healing is just being alone. And that can be really scary for a lot of us. It was really scary for me. I was terrified to be alone, because it's natural to want to be connected with other people. It's natural to want to feel like you're loved and supported. But sometimes being alone is exactly what we need. So, that's a really great question, Lisa. So I just want to thank you for asking that. But if that's the case, and if that's what's going on with you, oh man, I'm feeling feeling some people dropping into their heart right now, which is beautiful. If you feel like that's the case, guys, then you just need to really focus on yourself and just learn to be alone. Learn to be with the loneliness of the heart, and learn to be okay with feeling that lonely feeling. Because once you get okay with feeling that lonely feeling, the other side of that is you're going to feel incredibly connected to the world at all times, and you're going to start doing shit like this. Wilson, yeah. Sophie says Wilson, crying out Wilson. That's right. Catherine says it isn't beautiful. It isn't. No, it's beautiful when we're with the person, we love them, but then when we jump into that hurt and that loneliness and that heartache, it's not easy at all. It really hurts a lot. All right, guys, I got time for one more question here, and then I got to get going. I got a call at 6:00. So Jade says, I don't think it's often that a couple will both awaken at the same time. It's important to communicate as you grow with your partner, so your vibrations will up level together and match. Yeah, that's great, Jade. Thank you so much. So guys, if you are going through a shift, and you're upgrading, you want to communicate to your partner as much as possible, because if not, you're only going to feel dragged down by them, and then that's going to create that upset and resentment. All right, last one here. Julie says, how would you deal with a friend who is constantly threatening suicide? I finally had to distance myself from this person. I just simply could not help him anymore. It made me feel terrible. I can't see the rest of the question. Sorry, Julie, I can't see the rest of the question right now, so I'll just answer your question directly. So Julie says, how do you help a friend who's threatening suicide, and how do you be with them? Look, guys, you don't have to be with them at all. If you feel horrible for not being there for a friend who's suicidal, that's okay. That's a decision that you're making. Their energy is going to pull you down and hurt you, right? Julie, you got to be there for yourself before anyone else. So if you're trying to save people all the time, look at the dynamic. And guys, we're going to go into this next video on my live stream on Friday. We're going to go into this like hardcore. Okay, so there's the triangle, there's the Carpum triangle, and there's 3 roles that we always play in life. It's either the rescuer, the victim, or the persecutor. Okay, so if you're trying to save people, then there's something within yourself that you might be trying to save or trying to avoid. So guys, don't even, Julie, don't even worry about that. If your friends, I know he's your friend, but you can't help someone. They got to deal with their own karma. They got to deal with their own stuff. I've been suicidal at life at times, and I've reached out to people. My family, my friends have supported me. But if that's just an ongoing thing and they're not doing something to help themselves, then that's their own issue. They can't use you as a crutch. Some people will just use you as a crutch. Whenever I see someone starting to use me as a crutch now, I cank that shit right off the bat. I say, no, that's not okay. Okay, I'm worthy. I'm more than a crutch to someone, right? I'm a pillar, all right? And that's how you got to take it. You got to be a pillar, all right? A pillar for yourself, not a crutch for someone else. Be a pillar for yourself. All right, guys. Hey, Marina, thanks for joining. Hey, Sadie, thanks for joining. Guys, I'm sorry if you joined late. I really am sorry. I'm just finishing up the video, but I would love to see you back here next time. Guys, I do videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, I really look forward to you guys being here. It really means a lot to me that you show up. And also, guys, if you find this helpful, please share it with any family or friends that you think can help. I know this information is really valuable. It's everything that I've learned, and I really want to give it back to the world. So, guys, thanks so much for joining me. And if you guys have any questions or you're maybe dealing with something, please feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation about it and we can deep dive into. Feeling real chill today. I don't think this live stream has ended. All right. Bye, YouTube. You're wonderful. Thank you.